And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ground Floor Podcast. I'm here today with SA rugby legend Naas Botha. Naas, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. Thanks for accepting my invite, it's much easier for me to send out an invitation, and hope that I'm going to get a response from someone. I'm quite glad that I did get a response in this case. So there's a very specific story that I just want to start off with. Naas and I were speaking before the podcast started about how frustrating it can sometimes be in situations when you're in an interview and the interviewer will cut you off and interrupt with new questions and not allow the person to speak. And when I was doing my research for this last night and the day before, there was one story that I came across which I thought was so incredible and such a wholesome story, but no one would ever let you finish the story and tell the whole thing. So I'd like to give you that opportunity now. Apparently, I hope you know what I'm talking about. Apparently, when you were very young, when you were just 9 years old, you snuck into the stadium to watch a rugby game. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened?
It was actually an international game at Loftus. Okay, and in those days it was extremely difficult to get a ticket. I know sometimes my parents went on the Wednesday and they stood outside Loftus to buy a ticket. On the Monday, excuse me, not Wednesday, on the Monday. And then by Wednesday they might get a ticket, okay, or a couple of tickets. But it wasn't really me snugging in. It was actually my brother. He and a couple of his friends decided, okay, if we inside Loftus on the Friday night, then we should be able to be inside Loftus on the Saturday morning. So we decided, okay, let's go in, and then we sort of stayed in the change rooms for the Friday night.
So you slept in the change room.
Yeah, but it was it's fun. Put it that way. It wasn't harmful or wasn't bad or whatever. But we stayed there, and then they closed all the doors. But you can imagine now a stadium like that in the old days. And all the funny stories about ghosts and all this and all that. But luckily nothing like that. And we stayed there on the Friday night, and then on the Saturday morning, I think around about the curtain raises started quite early. I believe so many years ago. I believe they opened around about 8, 9 in the morning. And then we were inside. And we had the most wonderful experience. But after that, we normally went legally to watch international games. But, we always joke now. We always say, in the old days, we sneaked into Loftus to watch rugby. Now, during the game, the people are trying to sneak out, not to watch the game. So it's a slight different story. But I was more the follower. My bigger brother. He was more the instigator. But all in a good manner, not in a bad one.
I see. I think that says so much about, culture surrounding where your kids can go. I think if a 9-year-old were to just not come home one night, now you'd have it on the news at 7, and it would be a massive story, and everyone would be posting on Facebook, have you seen this boy? This is what he's wearing. Were your parents aware about this beforehand?
No,
they knew about it.
They were coming on the Saturday in any case.
I see. So it was a coordinated effort.
No, it was a planned one.
Okay, so at least you could go sit with them or sit on their lap.
The most important thing was just not to get caught.
Yeah.
I think that was the whole story. That was the excitement, is to make sure that nobody see you or whatever. But at the end, it was for the good cause, without even knowing that maybe one day I would play at Loftus. I was very fortunate. I was, my standard 5, what's that, grade 7.
Yeah, I think
but I'm going to keep it in my language. Okay, standard 5, final year at primary school. We had quite a nice, decent team. Okay, and we had some playoffs, and that was my first time I actually played at Loftus. That was 1970. It's only 50 years ago. Okay.
Only 50 years ago, yeah.
Only 50 years ago. So that was fine. And then under 15, we had some more playoff games. and I was at Loftus again. But I also, in the meantime, I was selected to play Northern Transvaal Primary School. That was also 1970. So I played two or three provincial games. The one actually, we beat Free State with a drop. I was actually playing fullback. Okay, as I always say, tongue in cheek, my dad didn't give enough biltong to keep me at fly-off. Okay, so the selectors decided, okay, now let's put him in. They played me fullback, and we played Free State. And I can just recall somewhere along the line somebody did a bad kick or whatever, and I was like outside the 22. But I'm only 12 years old. Okay, caught the ball and I took a drop, and we won 6-3. You know, but didn't even know many years later against the Free State, I would do actually quite a number of drop kicks.
Quite a number, I think, is an understatement. I seem to recall that for a while you held a record for, what was it, most number of points scored. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's. I always say you never plan to get a record, especially in a team sport, you know. But kicking wise, they come and go. Because there's always a guy later playing more games, playing easier games, you know, breaking records, whatever. But I think I'm a little bit under correction here, but I think in total, in all my first class games, I had about 291 drop kicks, I think. It's quite a number.
It is quite a number.
Yeah, it's quite a number, yeah.
Yeah, I wanna go back a little bit. You said a few minutes ago that, you know, back when you were a child, it was very difficult to find a seat at a rugby game. So, I mean, obviously pre the coronavirus, we had seen for a number of years how the attendance at stadiums was slowly dwindling, and
Yeah.
you know, I remember watching the only real games that were absolutely packed were, you know, big international test matches and World Cup games. But other than that, especially in the Currie Cup, apart from the final, things weren't really as busy as I remember them being when I was a kid, and certainly not as busy as they were when you were younger.
Okay, we can never compare, you know that, okay, because it's two different eras. We spoke about it in this week, that I actually played a game at Loftus B, okay, and we're on a Wednesday afternoon, and there were like 11,000 people, 15,000 people, you know, so there's no stands, you just stand around the field, okay, but to try and explain it, no TV, okay, it's a big difference, okay. What sport could they make extremely exciting on any media platform? It's only radio, okay. Now you go back in the old days, in the 60s, when South Africa toured New Zealand, we got up at 3:30 in the morning, switch on the radio, and then you listen, okay. That's how we listen to the international games. And I don't think in the past there were too many things for people to do. You know, in the summer it's cricket, and in the winter it's rugby. And I'm talking about the bigger sports, okay. And then of course you've got soccer, and then you've got your smaller sports, hockey and netball and whatever. But I mean, and the stadium took what? I wouldn't actually know, but let's say about 40,000 people, and then there's only one grandstand, and the rest is like standing, okay. But now it's so well organized that it's so easy to watch. But the problem is, and it's not our fault, it's not SuperSport's fault, okay. There are like, I think on one weekend, a couple of years ago, you could watch like 16 rugby games, 14 rugby games that we show. You know, so what do you do lately? Okay, in the old days, you go to the field. You want to experience. Okay, now suddenly there's a game at, let's say, 2. There's a game at 4. There's a game at 6. Now what do? Do you go to the field, or do you rather watch the 3 games? And I think it's difficult. And I think the economy is not really contributing. I think sometimes, people look at it and say, it's a family of 5. And you put all the costs together, because it's not only the ticket, you know that. It's getting there, it's eating,
Stadium food.
kids, they're not even inside the stadium, then suddenly, out of the blue, they're hungry. They need to eat. That's just the way it
You
works.
know why? It's because, I can tell you why, because I was a kid not too long ago. It's because of those mini donuts. That's the reason. You get in there because you're not hungry.
I'm glad, before you go, and I'm so glad you're mentioning donuts, because the family asked me before we go back home to go and get donuts this morning. I'm so glad you mentioned, because I think I would have forgot. Okay, go on.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's loads of awesome places to get donuts, I'm sure you know. But yeah, it says you get into the stadium. As a kid, you're excited and you see, and there's lots of other stuff. I remember all the other people used to love chip and dip. You remember chip and dip, because that was the only place at a stadium that you could really get chip and dip. But the mall I stayed in Vereniging when I was a kid, and the mall we used to go to was River Square. They had a chip and dip, so chip and dip had lost its effect on me. I wasn't interested in chip and dip. But when you get into the stadium, people are walking past, and you see someone walk past with those little polystyrene trays. They've got like 6 donuts on each side, the small ones, and they cover them in the sauce. When you see those as a kid, it's
okay. But
gold.
Now, seeing that you're quite a youngster, okay, explain to me. A couple of times I've been in hospital, and I'm a guy. If I'm in hospital, I don't want to be bothered. Okay, seriously, stay at home, because you only bother me. I'm in the hospital to recover. You know what I mean, okay? But as soon as the kids walk into the room, they want to buy some food to eat.
Yeah.
So it's not only at a rugby field. Wherever they go, it's always they're hungry.
It's those vending
fascinates
machines,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm fascinated to think there's somebody in a hospital you go to eat. Rather stay at home. Yeah. Okay, but let's go back to
I remember when I was younger, this was before Wi-Fi was a really big thing. Like it was probably big overseas by then, but it wasn't as big here. And I remember when I was in primary school and the start of high school, my contract gave me 300 megs of data a month. I mean, to now think that I was supposed to survive on, I use more than triple that a day now. That's not even on, watching ultra 4K movies. That's just watching, just normal media consumption. So to think that I had to survive on 10 megs a day back then is terrifying. But I remember that there was a time my brother got very sick. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it wasn't too serious. We knew he would be okay, but he had to be in hospital for a couple of days. So my parents took me to the hospital after school. And I went in, but he wasn't, he's a kid, he doesn't know what to say. So I just awkwardly greeted him and wished him well. And my parents said, listen, they're going to sit with him for a while, just chat to the doctors. Why don't I go down to the restaurant, get myself something to eat? The restaurant had unlimited Wi-Fi, which I had never experienced unlimited Wi-Fi in my life. So my mom came to me and she said to me, listen, I don't just want to leave you here. We will leave just now. And I looked at her, I was young, I was probably 10 or 11. And I said to her, I've got everything I need. I can just watch YouTube forever. I can just sit here, I'll order something if I'm hungry. And they ended up staying with my brother for 3 or 4 hours, and I sat there and
but that's the new generation.
It was the most incredible thing to me that I could. Usually I would start watching a video and 6 minutes later my data would be finished, and then I had to go beg my mom to recharge me for the month. But so I think that at least for me in hospitals it was more the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So how often does your family still go and watch live rugby games?
See, internationals they do. Okay, especially if I work, I will 99% take him along. Now that we're doing Curry Cup and Unlock from the stadiums, I take my 2 girls, try and stay in the protocol of the COVID scenario, whatever. And if it's not allowed, then they don't go. But they join me quite often on international games. A couple of years ago when the Bulls had the finals in Soweto, Super Rugby, I took him along because for the great experience. And but my one girl went to the opening game at the World Cup last year to Japan. She loved that. But what frustrated me at one stage was that they lost interest because of we didn't always get the right results. I don't think we played good rugby at one stage in an international level, and I was very disappointed to understand that a sport that I love and whatever, it's not about me now. I'm long gone, okay, but I was like always they would always like rugby, but they totally, the whole family just lost interest. It's like, oh, where are you going? No, I'm working. Okay, okay, come back. Did you watch the game? No. We watched Diana's wedding, or we watched this. Or I said, what are you guys doing? Not interested. But I must be honest, the last 2 years since Rassi took over, we started showing better results. We started, let's say, created a little bit of a winning culture again. Suddenly they're back into it. And they even, if I don't work on the weekend and I watch like rugby games and whatever, they don't really follow, like me, the games in Europe or in France or whatever we show. But South African games, they'll actually come and sit with me and watch a little bit. So that's quite nice. But even last night I spoke to a friend, and he played Northerns, played Currie Cup finals, whatever. And he said he's not watching rugby anymore. And that's the thing that worries me a little bit. There's so many Springboks that I talk to that you say, they'll say sometimes to me, what do you do on the weekend? And I say, excuse me, South Africa is playing on the weekend, and I'm not joking. And I'll say, are you serious? I said, yeah. And that shows me somewhere we lost the plot. Is it about the rugby? I don't think so. Is it like making the ex-players feeling not welcome? That can be a problem. Because I think at some stage, not too many years ago, it was like new generation didn't like really a voice of the past excluding players, because I was always a guy that said, but why don't you have, I don't want to say reunions, because if we have Currie Cup reunions, I would quite be busy, okay? But I just felt that we left the old players a little bit in the dark. We made them feeling more unwelcome than welcome. It's like, I know in the past, if there's an international, we got some international tickets for the game, but that's not part of the deal anymore. So maybe professional rugby brought something different to the table. And I don't mind, seriously, I like tradition, but I don't mind changing it. Because if you look at tennis, in 1975, it was like, I think it started to be a professional sport, Not started, but I mean, that's when money started really playing a major part. And nothing wrong with it, is it? No. So, if you win and you get X amount, who cares? And that's why tennis, you look at tennis, I think tennis actually turned into a fantastic sport. You look at golf, leading, I think at the moment. Okay, I'm quite a follower of American sports, so American football and all this stuff and whatever. But somewhere rugby, and that's the worrying aspect. Rugby I would like to see rugby a global game. Okay, but somewhere the way we manage rugby, I'm not convinced we're going to ever get rugby to a global game. I don't know why. Because I'm a great believer that, let's look at the scenario in South Africa at the moment. Okay, We've got 7 teams that's playing in the Unlock Supersport Challenge. Then we've got the Curry Cup, and we've got 14 unions and whatever. And at the end, what I would like to see, and I don't think I'll ever see it, okay, is that it's all about privately owned entities, franchises. That means we buy, you and me, we buy Loftus. Okay, at the moment we're not going to, because Rupert and whatever is not going to allow us, but okay. But we own it. So we walk to Andre Pollard and say, okay, it's our money, it's nobody else's money, it's our money, okay? We would like you to hang around Loftus for the next 10 years, we'll give you 500 million. Because that happens to Mahomes, the quarterback of Kansas City Chiefs, not long ago, I think a year ago. Okay, but you can't do that in rugby because the structures say there are amateur teams, there are club sides, there are varsity sides, there are schools. We need to look. It's like after after everybody. And somewhere along the line, I would seriously like to see we draw the line and say, this is amateur or semi-pro, whatever, and that next level is the absolute pro league. But the only way you can look at it, it's privately owned. Because SARU can only do so much with the money. They can't look after everybody. So they need to walk a tightrope to make sure everything works. But I know somewhere along the line between what I'm saying now and giving over to you as an owner of a franchise, I'm actually giving quite a bit of rights away, okay, or control. I think that's the word, control. So I'm not going to be in control of the whole thing anymore, because I'm trying to see, as I've said to you, how can we get rugby a global game? I believe privately owned, or it must be all about money. And I know now I'm going to feel that a lot of people would totally disagree with me. But I would say, to play in a C-section of a Curry Cup, C-section, that franchise needs a budget of 15 million. Whoever puts 15 million on the table, or 10 million or 5 million, let's make it 5 million. Whoever puts 5 million on the table can have a franchise. Okay, and there's a salary cap, or there's a structure to it. How do you spend your 5 million? Okay, now there might be, okay, forget the economy at the moment. Okay, there might be in the past, or even in the future, 10 guys that say, okay, I've got enough money, I can play around a little bit, let me put 5 million. So we've got 10 teams in the C section. Then the B section, you say, okay, it's not 5, it's like 15, for argument's sake. Okay, there might be a couple of guys in future come and say, I would like to be an owner of a team. There's my guarantee for the next 5 years. I can do this. And we might have another 5, 6 teams, or even 10 teams. And then we say top Curry Cup. Okay, the Bulls, for argument's sake, they've got 2 fantastic owners at the moment. And the Lions got a good owner. But they can't own the franchise. They can only own part of the franchise. Now, why can't they own the franchise? You follow? I know rugby is about the international team. Now, when you look at English soccer, you know soccer. Sometimes, and I don't think rugby will ever go there. Okay, but you look at some of the teams in the league. They sometimes don't have an English player. They're playing in the English league. Now, I don't think we'll ever find a scenario where you've got 6 Curry Cup teams and it's all played, all the teams are foreigners. I don't think we'll ever get to that. Rugby is not structured like that. I was even going that far to say, can we make, and I know it's just an expression, okay? Can we make rugby a absolute billion dollar industry? What do I mean by that? Okay, of course it's a $1 billion industry, but I mean, South Africa, the Springboks, have a private owner. So does New Zealand, and England, and Wales, And every year they play. So all your structures at the bottom, from school level to varsity cup, club level to, let's say, semi-pro to pro, all works to have the same scenario. You look at American football, there are 34 teams, I think, 32, 34 at the moment. And they're like all billion-dollar franchises. I think rugby has got all the capabilities to move into that, but because of constitutions and whatever, and laws that's been decided many, many years ago that we still stick to. And I think maybe it's seriously time for us to think outside the box. And I think maybe COVID is going to force us to think differently. Because look at what happened. You know, teams can't get spectators. I see there are teams that's losing like millions on not staging games, and I think somewhere along the line, nobody wants to go overboard, nobody. But somewhere along the line, we need guys, and I know the guys are working on it every single day, whatever. But we need to think, and I'm only talking rugby. I'm not comparing it to any other sport, whatever. I'm trying to say, what can we do to make rugby such an exciting game that you mentioned earlier? Less people going to watch. What can we do to get rugby to where people are excited about it? And you know, on this weekend people go. They're not going for the dop and the braai. Right? They go for the rugby. Because a lot of people are actually going for the experience. They're not going for the rugby. Now, my point is, I would like to see people go for the rugby. Okay, I think in the past we've lost the plot seriously also in that, because we thought if we organize a concert, people will go and watch the rugby. If you organize a concert before a rugby game or after a rugby game, they go for the concert. They're not going for the rugby. What do we do to make sure people go for the rugby, like in the old? Okay, so we can debate this point for, I gather, for the next 10 years. What I would like to see is people getting to the point where we're getting a structure in place. That's why I love that about a year ago, where they wanted the World League, you know, but then teams voted against, or countries voted against that. I actually like that idea. Like we play, there's like 12 teams, and you play 11 or 22 international games per year. I thought that would put the rugby into a different scenario. Now, I can give you another scenario. I'm involved in rugby in India. We play 2 international games here. Now, try and explain to me, as a supporter of the game, what do you gain? What do you gain in any sport by playing 2 internationals? Because I can't see it. You know, we have training camps and whatever for 2 games. You know, you play one on a Wednesday and one on a Saturday. Now, that's where World Rugby needs to seriously stand up and say, no. If we want to grow the game, we can't expect India or Israel or whatever to play 2 games. You know, and then they want to rank us on 2 games. You know, you can rank me if I play at least 10 to 12 games. So we definitely need to revisit a number of our structures at the moment to make rugby a different, I want to say, animal vehicle as it is at the moment.
I think if you look overseas, there's a specific example that comes to mind, which is Mark Cuban. Now, Mark Cuban, he's this billionaire in the US, and he owns his basketball team,
Dallas Mavericks.
Yes, there we go.
And you, just before you go on about Mark Cuban, he actually played with me in the Dallas Harlequins team in 1983-84.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he as wealthy then? I imagine
No, but he's definitely today. No, and he wasn't a bad rugby player. He loves his rugby.
Is it?
Yeah, he loves
I didn't know that.
And he wasn't a bad player. No, not at all.
All right. Well, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, Mark Cuban owns the Mavericks. And when you, as a private owner, when you buy a team, it becomes a business, you know?
Absolutely.
And a business is for profit. So he wants them to play as much as possible so that they can get as much screen time as possible so that he can sell as much merchandise as possible, which I think is brilliant. And I know that there's a following of people who would think that you lose the spirit of the game. Or it's like you said, you want it to be, for rugby. But I think that at some point it needs to be a balancing act, because do you commit yourself to being so for rugby and the spirit of rugby, the pureness of rugby, until rugby is completely irrelevant? Or do you say, okay, if we commercialize rugby more, we can make it more popular and at least ensure that rugby will still exist 20 years from now?
A strong statement you're making. I think the way I look at it, it's got to be a business. It's got to. You can't go any other way. What you'll never lose is the rugby side of it. But let's be honest. There are a couple of things that we see in the last number of years that's actually making rugby boring. It's got nothing to do with the business. A lot of people say, yeah, but if you put money into rugby, it's going to fall apart. No, it's not going to fall apart. It's going to grow. Okay. What's making rugby falling apart is the way we play it at the moment. It's boring. It is scrum off to a forward getting tackled, scrum off to a forward getting tackled. It is seriously not exciting. The laws that they've changed at the moment, even this year, it's giving the defensive team all the advantages instead of the attacking team. What do you want to go and see if you go and watch a game? I wouldn't mind, like last week, New Zealand Pumas. Fantastic international game. Fantastic, seriously. That's an international game, okay? What I don't want to watch is a 6-3 game where nobody can catch, nobody can kick, nobody can pass the ball. Whatever pass they give, they drop. Whatever kick they do is directly into touch. That's quality. So we can't get confused with the quality of the game and business. And see, we trying to hide the bad quality and blame business. That's nonsense. Business must be part of rugby. The thing that's destroying rugby at the moment is the way we play, the quality of rugby we playing, the quality of skill the players have. That is not good for the game. If we pick that up and we get that to a higher level, people would go and watch. I'm going to give you a straightforward, simple example. Okay, the law book says, okay, and we'll make it nice so nobody laughs, okay? You tackle me, because if I say I tackle you, then everybody's going to laugh, okay? You tackle me. The law states, okay, in my mind, and this is only my ideas, okay? I'm not talking here on behalf of anybody else. This is just the way I look at the game, okay? The law states, if you tackle me, I'm allowed to place the ball immediately. You're watching international games, you must have watched all the games so far. Okay, that means I'm going down, you tackled me, I'm going down, I'm lying on the ground, then I can place the ball. Listen very carefully, I can place the ball. That means my team can come, clean, support, cover, whatever, we can pick up the ball and we can play again. What happens in today's game? And you'll see it tomorrow again. Okay. Tomorrow you'll see it again and look for it, and then you'll see why I'm so frustrated. You tackle me, there's another tackler from your team next to you. It's not part of the tackle at the moment. As soon as I'm going down and I hit the ground, he comes in and he puts his hands on the ball. I get penalized holding on to the ball. You know what I'm talking about. What is the law really stating? I must be allowed first to place the ball. That is not happening. It's killing the game. Every tackle nearly turns into a penalty. What do we have to do? We have to give the team that's showing the inclination to attack all the advantages. Not forward passes and nonsense like that, okay? All the advantages to keep playing. Why? Because they're going to make it exciting, isn't it? But at the moment it can't be, because the defense team is getting the advantage on the tackle ball. Now what would I be, and let's go back at the World Cup. Let's go back to the World Cup, okay? What happened? for so many World Cups. World Cups won by defensive teams. Okay, that's one. Okay, let's be honest. You can listen to any coach. They will always say to you, sort out your defense. You want to win a World Cup? Sort out your defense. Okay? And your kicking game. Why? Because the laws don't allow me to play. That's why New Zealand, and I'm serious, that's why New Zealand sometimes falls short in World Cups. Okay? Now, if we can just change just that one, let's say, attitude towards the game, we're going to have a different game. So the attitude at the moment is, I don't want the ball. Because I'm only getting penalized when I carry the ball. I'd rather give it to you. Now, I'm asking you, you're a young guy and you like rugby, I gather, and you support rugby. If I don't make any sense, you tell me straight. But if I make any sense, then somewhere along the line we have got work to do because we've got to change this. We have to change this. And I can't see it. I saw last week. It is so frustrating. Then I keep replaying. And I look, the guy is not even on the ground. He's not even on the ground. The next guy comes in, puts his hands on the ball, penalty. And I think, Mr. Ref, please, what are you doing? But that's the law. I'm not blaming referees. Listen very carefully. I'm not blaming anybody. They just apply the law. The law is wrong. That's the end of it. Okay? We need to fix that. But as long as we don't fix that, now do me a favor. Now tomorrow, go and watch. And you'll see a guy get tackled. He's not giving 100th of a second to place the ball. Another guy puts his hands on the ball. Penalty. And that's the end of it. That's why the game is not exciting enough at the moment to draw people to say, you know what, I'm going to watch the Bulls. What's happening at the moment is we, the supporters, watch the games because they know their team's going to win. If they've got a little bit of doubt the team might not win, they don't even go. Now, that's not what rugby is all about. Or in my mind, rugby is far better than that. But that's where we are at the moment. And that's why it's not nice at the moment. And I'm not talking rugby down. I'm just saying, I'm sitting there, like last week I worked Pumas, Griquas and Sharks. Yeah, and out of the blue, Griquas came. And they really played a nice game. Seriously a nice game, okay? And the Sharks, you could see they were uncomfortable. At the end, they did win with a penalty, like in the 84th minute or whatever, or 86th minute. But it was just a nice game. I walked away from Kimberley, and I thought, I actually enjoyed this. In the next moment, you watch an international game, Pumas, New Zealand. The guy's not even, he's halfway down to the ground. Another guy, and then the ref already blows his whistle. And I was like, please, Mr. Ref, what do you think you're doing? But he's just applying the law. And now sometimes it's too quick again. You know, they normally decide, okay, let's concentrate on a couple of laws before the season. And then the first 2, 3, 4 weekends, you know, it's just penalty, and then it settles down a little bit, and then it starts working a little bit, okay? At one stage, they said, put the ball straight into the scrum. They still don't do it. What do you want out of rugby? You want a fair deal. If you play against me, you want a fair deal, okay? Fair deal means put the ball straight in. If you can't put the ball straight in, penalize the guy. Now, some referees say, yeah, but we can't keep on penalizing, we're going to have 100 penalties. Now, if I'm a coach and you put the ball in 10 times and you get blown 10 times, I'm going to drop you. Because why? Because you know you need to put it straight. But they don't do that. So rugby is not a fair game anymore. Now the attitude is you've made a mistake, so I should get the advantage. But why do we scrum then? We've seen, and that's one thing I love about rugby, we've seen in the last, we've lost it totally at one stage. And in the last 2 years, I think it actually came back where scrum became a vital part of a rugby game. Okay, and we won the World Cup, seriously, because we scrummed England to pieces. Every scrum turned into a penalty. But now, by not putting the ball in straight, you know, how fair is that now? Yeah. So there's so many things about rugby that's so intriguing, sometimes annoying, but at the end, it's a fantastic game. I would just like to see rugby just grow to a level that nobody expected. And I think we've touched on a couple of pointers that I think it can help. But of course, the guys in the boardroom would say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So let's just move on.
So I want to ask you a bit of a different question. So you've mentioned how rugby over the past few years has become a bit more scrum central, and scrums have become very, very vital to playing a successful game of rugby. Do you think that has been a contributing factor to players being so much bigger and more sort of muscular now than they were maybe back in the day? Because if you can go and watch clips, and even guys who were playing rugby when I was very small is, compared to guys like Eben Etzebeth, who's just this monster. It's not even comparable.
Yeah.
And definitely, if you were to take the 90s team and put them up against today's team, we would scrum them to bits. But it's just because we've got so many more kilograms and so much more pushing power. So my question that I'm trying to lead to is, how do you think the rules of the game change what the average player looks like?
Okay. I don't think it's the laws of the game that made players into bodybuilders. I don't think so. It's a front row. And I'm not a front row. Okay. I'm not an expert, but go and speak to the guys. If you're strong, you'll survive. If you're not strong, you're not going to survive. That's the end of it. There's a technique in a front row that needs to be there. That's just, they're natural strong or you're not. And if you're not, that's the guy that's scrumming in. That's the guy taking out. That's the guy scrumming past you, whatever. Okay? You should actually one day do a nice one with a front row, so they can explain to us. It is so difficult if you're not strong. Gym is going to make you stronger, but you can either scrum or you can't. And there you need natural talent. That's my point of view. What happened? The game changed, okay, for the better. Okay. In my days, we were allowed to play what you feel, or just play. Now what happened, since rugby turned professional, okay, we turned rugby into a different kind of game. I'll give you an example. I was very fortunate to play a little bit American football, and in American football you've got a playbook. Playbook means the quarterback calls a play and everybody work to make it happen. That's it. Quarterback say, okay, 2 for 5 means you run 5 yards straight, then you sidestep to the right, another 5 yards, and I actually take the ball and I throw at the spot. I don't throw at you. The call means you need to be at that spot. So I just throw at the spot. If you're there, fine. If you're not there, we're in trouble. Okay? That's what American football is all about. But if I do throw to you and you miss the ball or you knock it on or whatever, I get the ball back because you've got 4 downs. So then it's a second down. And then we call another play. And then you run like 10 meters straight, 30 meters downfield, whatever, and I throw and hopefully you catch the ball. Okay? That's why you need a playbook. Because every time it can be a different play. Okay? It's a running game and a passing game. What happened in rugby? They talk about playbooks. Okay? And they talk about, I don't know how many moves. And they talk about game plans. Of course you have to have a framework or a game plan that you can operate in. But what happens in rugby is, if I pass to you, we call a play, okay, 2 for 5. We call a play, 2 for 5. That means the ball comes out from the line out, I'm the flyer, if I pass to you, you run straight into the first center, quick ball, I give it to 6 runs onto the next center, and then I get a quick ball and I scissors with 14 coming inside. We can call that a play, okay? But the unfortunate thing in rugby is, if I pass to you and you knock it on, we don't get the ball again. Now it's the opposition's ball. Now there are so many times that we've heard in the past, there's a game plan. Sorry, you don't fit into my game plan. It's not because you're not the best. You might be the best player, but you're not fitting in my game plan. Why? Because you can't bench 180 in the gym. Now explain to me what's a 180 kg bench got something to do with rugby. Okay, that's one. Okay, so we like in between all these different areas, So you need to be able to do that in the gym to play rugby. Seriously, I would think you should be able to have an extremely skillful manner to play rugby. That means you can catch and you can pass and you can kick and you can sidestep and you can sprint and you can scrum and you can jump, and that is skill. But now what happened is, because of game plans, we're getting certain players that's got all the skill in the world, but they're getting forced into a game plan. Okay, into a game plan. Now what happens now? You don't execute the game plan, so you're not in my team anymore. If you've got all the talent in the world, it doesn't matter. Now the question I sometimes ask, okay, and I'm not attacking anybody personally here, whatever. I'm just giving you my ideas, the way I think. Why are we doing gym? That's your question. I think it's because of the lack of skill. You pass to me, okay? I take the ball and I get it out. Another guy feels pressure totally different. You can be half a yard away from me. I can take the ball and I will pass, because I use my upper body to go forward or backwards, or just get my hands through, go and fetch the ball there and whatever. 90% of the play is catching the ball next to his body. So instead of the pass, okay, and I'm showing you so you get a nice idea, instead of the pass starting there, he's catching the ball here. Then the hands need to go out again before he can pass. Okay, that's all new tricks. Okay, but it's a different situation under pressure, because I can get the ball there, you come, I take my upper body back and I pass to the guy next to me that's in a better position. Okay, if I take the ball here, you just hit me. Now if you hit me 10 times more again, or I take the ball, okay, and I run into you, because that's the game plan. I'm not looking for half a gap, whatever. I'm running onto you, into you, whatever. Okay, because some coaches believe if I run into you, I can control the ball in the contact situation. Why do I want to do that? I want to outskill you. I want to keep your mind busy, focused on me to create the gap for the next guy, not run over you to create a gap for the next guy. Okay, but now because they don't have the skill, so the guy takes the ball, he takes a hit, he takes another hit, he takes another hit. Now how long is he going to last in rugby? So I believe somewhere along the line we lost that golden thread between skill and game. And that's why the guys need to bulk up, because of the game plans, nothing else. Because if you look like me now, okay, I started when I was 73 kgs. If I take 2 knocks from forwards at the moment, I don't think I'm going to last too long. See, so what do? I have to go to 85, 80, yeah, at least 85. Okay, let's say very close to 90 kgs to take all these different knocks. So I'm, in a way, not using my brain power and my cleverness to stay in the game. I'm using my bulk to stay in the game. Does that really make sense to you?
I remember when I was in high school, we had a guy, his name was Tristan, and Tristan was, he was big to us at the time. He had been gymming for a few years. He had big chest, big arms, and he joined the rugby team, obviously. And I remember, I didn't play rugby, I played hockey throughout high school, but I remember that there was a stage when, probably in grade 11 or matric, they thought of a game plan that they called Warrior,
Yeah.
which was basically give the ball to Tristan and he's going to sprint straight at the other guys
Okay.
and try and knock them over. And it was I mean, I remember the day after they would play against other schools, and the next day these guys would come back just battered. I mean, like Tristan, this big hulking guy, he had black eye, like bruises all along his chest and his arms, and just, he'd be out of commission for a week at least after these games. And I used to tease them about it, and we talk about it. But I think it's interesting, and this sort of leads me into something else. The meme page that I run at Tix, I have an opportunity to take some polls and ask people for their opinions about things. And when I confirmed that I would be chatting to you, I asked them, is there anything that you want me to discuss with Naas? And what they said, one of the things they mentioned, which I thought was very interesting, and which I think you'll have really interesting opinions on, is steroid use in high schools with regards to rugby. Because the pressure for someone who wants to become a professional rugby player is immense, because there's only so many spots, so you do know. So to then be a high school kid who's hoping to get spotted by a scout, there's a lot of pressure for you to be able to perform your best. So more and more we're seeing 14, 15, 16-year-old kids looking today like Matrix looked 20 years ago. These massive, like, hulking, hairy giants who are developed beyond what they should be because they've been pumping testosterone for years. Do you think, what's your opinion on this?
I hope you actually listen to yourself here, okay, on your question. Because it's so vital what you're saying now, is that's the idea we created. You need to bulk. You need to be big. You need to be strong to play rugby. Now, I'm not medically qualified to say if it's good or bad or whatever. All I can say to you is one thing, okay? The following. You can go on whatever. That might help you to, instead of training once a day, train twice a day. That's all. Recover maybe quicker from an injury. The golden answer on your whole question is, it doesn't make you a better rugby player. Listen very careful. There's a big difference. You can be as bulky and whatever. It's not making a better rugby player. So somewhere along the line, if you're not good enough, the system will catch you. Okay, because you will not have the skill. Yes, you might look like the Incredible Hulk. After the third game, you're in the front row, and your scrum is going backwards every time. People are going to realize, this guy can't catch, he can't scrum, he can't do whatever. He might look whatever. So that is and I've always said that. Always. When people talk about steroids and whatever. In my days, I don't even think there might have been guys, but I can't say to you, I know, because I did, okay? Nobody used it. Why? Because we played rugby. That's the end of it, okay? And you had strong guys. You had a Piet Creer, and you had Dan du Plessis and Hempies de Toy. They were just strong. They just played because they're strong, front row. Then you get the tall guys. See the thing, what's nice about rugby? Think about it. Rugby is the only sport in the world that accommodates any body type, size, whatever you want to call it. The tall guy can play second row. The fast, bulky guy can play number 6. Number 7. The stocky little can play 6. And the guy that's got nice feel and can pass whatever, he's a number 8. And then you get a scrum off and you get a fly off. And rugby is the only sport that accommodates anybody. The problem is, kids believe, and I feel for them, they believe they need to be stronger. They need to do what? To do what? To play rugby? No. You need to have a rugby brain to play rugby. It's like I'm taking on what you've asked me, and it's such a vital question, okay? What you asked me, that means actually if we buy a team, you and me, we buy a team today, where would we go first? To World Gym and see if we can find 10 Arnold Schwarzeneggers. Does that make any sense to you? No. So that means it doesn't help you. Because then we're talking that, we're not talking, you need to find the guy that can play rugby. Then you need to find, what we do is we will say to you, oh, your build, whatever, no, you must play there. Why? What do you want to do? And that's where coaches do make a mistake. Because they always want to say, that body size, body type must play there. And this one, why? What do I want? I want, my golden rule in rugby is, and I've checked a little bit with the Indians, but you can't really talk about it. It's like we played 2 games in 2 years. Okay, so what are we talking about? My philosophy is, you need to love the game first before you play this game. And some guys play it because they think there's a future in it, and they don't love the game. They're not going to make it. I'm telling you now, you need to love something first before you can do it. So, great example. Are we going to get a lot of bodybuilders, bouncers to come and play rugby? In your life, it doesn't work like that. That's why it doesn't help you to do that. You think it will. At the end, you might be 2 years out of the game, you might be 4 years out of the game, or you might be permanently out of the game. Why? Because you're just not good enough.
I think that some of the pressure, it's an unfortunate situation, because now, so let's say you've got 2 schools, okay, and 2 first teams that are playing against each other. If Team A is doing, things the way you're saying, and they focus on their skills, and they don't use any substances or whatever, and then you've got the other team who, on average, if you start using steroids, you can very easily pack on 15, 20 extra kgs of muscle over the course of your high school career. If you are now playing against a team that's on average 10 to 15 kgs heavier, you will get hurt playing against them. You will get steamrolled. You won't be able to play as effectively. So now I think that players are put in a situation where they say, you know what, I know I'm better than him. If I just weighed an extra 15 kgs, I would outplay him every time. And that pressure then, it starts with one school. They become unbeatable because they are just so heavy and so difficult to get the ball from them. Then another school says, well, the only way we're going to compete with them is if we do it too. And another, and eventually you've got this pandemic. And it's almost similar to body shaming issues amongst women, whereby, women talk a lot about unrealistic body standards that are pushed in magazines and on TV and whatever the case may be. But the same is true for men, where they are. I can't open Instagram without seeing some guy with a 12-pack, and he's just this 130 kilo hulking monster who looks incredible and ripped year round. But now as a student who's trying to, you're hoping, I just hope I get spotted. I hope I can play Craven Week. I hope I can, do all these things. I think you feel very afraid that you're going to get to a point where you lose because there's another guy who's just as good as you, but he plays so much better because he has more mass. So now you think, I don't want to lose that opportunity. I don't want to regret it later. So I'm going to do that now.
Yeah, but aren't we talking about 2 wrongs making a right?
Definitely.
And that's wrong.
I agree with you. But how do you fix that problem?
You're not going to. Unfortunately, you're not going to. That's why maybe there's a super league at school level, and and that brings us to another point. Of course, that's what we're talking. You're talking performance at a certain level. We're talking at first team at school level. And then you get guys they have the idea that you must only play friendlies. I'm totally anti it. I'm a great guy, I believe, put structures in place, put a competition in place. I want to play to win something. You know why? Okay, and my girls play hockey. Okay, so I think I know, not hockey, I know a little bit about structures. Think about this, and I always say to them, take it and really go for it. Why? Because 99% of kids don't play hockey after school. They don't. But if there's something like the Noordval competitions and whatever, okay, that you can win at the school level, you leave school at the age of 18. For the next 62 years before you turn 80, you've got something to talk about. So if you only play friendlies, what are you talking about? So I like a little bit of competition and structure. A lot of parents totally disagree with me. It's fine. Each guy's got his own opinion. Okay. Now we get schools. There are certain schools that if you look at the old admin, or what do you call it now, Versekerbeker and the old Beeld and whatever, you get to semi-finals, they're normally there. Because they're just better than anybody else. Are they better because of the use of steroids? Or are they actually better because of the getting better structures in place? There are schools that put in proper gyms for the kids and whatever. Now, is it right or is it wrong? Now, my point is, okay, I would do anything in any scenario except the wrong thing, okay, to assist you to become the best whatever you can be. That's it, okay? That means if I need to put a gym into my school to get all my players on a gym program and a running program and taking them a little bit, doing athletics and play a little bit of basketball, their hand-eye coordination is better, let them wrestle a little bit because their balance is better. Now if I do all that, and I always play in semi-finals, finals, then I get blamed because I do illegal stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Or you get schools, first one is, oh, we don't buy. We don't buy. You buy. That's why you're always in semi-finals, final. What's buy? How we need to look at buying. It's got nothing to do with buying. What we need to talk about is, am I really giving somebody an opportunity to be better at rugby? Because at the end, what do I want? I want to see how many structures I can put into place. Not for the high school, not for the under 20 league, not for the semi-pro or pro league. What can I put in place to get you to play for South Africa one day? Because for me, there's only one team in this country, and that's South Africa. All the others are building blocks to get to the national side. Because why? Nobody, and I'm telling you now, I know we sometimes don't believe it, nobody cares in the world except in South Africa who wins the Curry Cup. Nobody. We think the world cares. Nobody. Okay? You know, to win the Curry Cup, you don't get on CNN. You know that. No? To win the World Cup, you do get on CNN. You get on the world stage. You get to the world media. You know what I'm talking about. Okay? We won the World Cup a year ago. Okay? We saw everybody in the world suddenly notice South Africa won the World Cup. American football guys, Roger Federer, you name it. They all know. So we all go, yes, and I like the idea of parents supporting their schools and their provincial sides and whatever. But at the end, it's all, what do we do to get the best players or potential players to play for South Africa? That should be our whole structure. Now, I gave you a couple of ideas what I can put on the table. That's all legal. But I get blamed because I'm buying players. No, I'm giving players an opportunity to be better. Because some structures in our country just don't allow certain players to come through. Okay, that's it. That's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's nobody's fault. That's just the way it is. You look at Pretoria, for argument's sake. There are certain schools, when it gets to trials, those players get an advantage. That's just the way it is. There are different schools. There might be a player. That's absolutely brilliant. That's in an unknown school. Do you really think today, while we're having this chat, he's going to play Craven Week? No. And I know, because I've seen it. I went a couple of years ago, I coached at Waterkloof High School. And I went to watch a couple of the Craven Week trials. And I was standing there. And not too far, all the selectors were there, very important, sitting there on their chairs and whatever. Okay, it was actually quite fun to just watch, because sometimes it's a joke. Because all you need to do is say, that guy's got talent, that guy. Okay, and there was a guy, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He was like playing the E trial team or whatever. Okay, best hands I've seen in a long time. He's like a water polo player, man, on a rugby field. He catches the ball like this, pass like this, run and whatever. And I said to the one selector, no jokes, I said, who's that? He said, who cares? He's from St. Albans. I said, what? I said, look at the guy. Absolutely fantastic. Do you know the name Jason Jenkins? Playing for the Bulls? Playing for South Africa?
You're testing me now on my rugby knowledge.
No, but I'm just saying, that's the guy I'm talking about.
Oh, seriously?
He wasn't even in the run. They weren't even interested in this guy because he came from a school.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, but that's the structures. That's what we're talking about.
So, I mean, when you were training, I read an article where someone was talking about how, I mean, there's a lot of people who said that you were the best rugby player in the world at the time. And a lot of the people will reference the fact that you would train a lot more than everyone else. There was a specific article I read that said that you always arrived an hour and a half before training sessions and you just practiced, beforehand. Is that, do you think, the key to becoming a Springbok? Is just putting in more time than anyone else, and you can sort of overcome, genetic advantages just through training? It's like Gary Player, my dad used to quote him all the time, that said, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. Is that something you believe in?
I just believe that the more you put in, the more you will get out. If you don't put in anything, you're not going to get anything out. Okay, that's just common sense. Okay, and I think that's where we sometimes actually miss. The point is, we had this discussion last week in Kimberley. Had this discussion because of the Puma All Black game that morning. No, sorry. No, I worked on Friday night, but we had a discussion on. Okay, and the point I'm trying to make is, it looks like rugby players sometimes need to understand their job is to play rugby, not to become a hairstylist or a fashion designer or a fashion guru or whatever. His job is to play rugby. And I think sometimes, yes, it's all the add-ons that sometimes get more scope, maybe play a bigger part. I don't know. I just believe in my days it was all amateur, whatever. I wasn't going out, and I can say to you honestly, when I was primary school, I wasn't one of those guys that said, I want to play for the Springboks. I just played rugby because I loved it. I played baseball because I loved it more. Okay, and I still think if I can go back 40 years, I would still think I would prefer to go into the baseball scenario instead of the rugby scenario. It just worked out. Okay, it doesn't matter. But it was just, I wasn't there to say, okay, I'm going to put an hour and a half in extra every day to be better than you. I never played against anybody. I concentrated on being the best I can. Now, rugby works, as you know, there's a number 1 to number 15. We expect the number 1 to scrum well, to support well, and clean well, and whatever. Number 2, throw in straight in the line out, hook the ball in the scrum and whatever. Number 6, to win the ball on the ground. Number 7, to put pressure on. What's my job? My job is to run the show a little bit, giving direction, 9 and 10, giving direction to the game, and if I do get a penalty, to try and kick it over. That's my job. So I think with all the training, that doesn't matter. That was just part of my I want to say, my way of preparing myself. Okay, so I wasn't going out to do extra to be better than somebody else, because I just never bothered about that. I just did it because I liked it. I think that's how you need to look at it. And on Tuesdays, for argument's sake, because I loved it. Okay, on Mondays I'll be there, yes, and then I was never a guy. That's quite amazing. But it's also because we only trained in the evenings. I never stayed behind. I was always there early to put in all my extra work. And for kicking, for argument's sake, I kicked with one ball. Just one. You see now guys having bags and bags of balls, and they kick and kick and kick. I kick the one, then I'll go and fetch it. Then I'll kick again, and I'll go. So in my mind, I started working on my fitness, because I need to jog to go, and then I need to climb over the little fence, go and find the ball between the seats and whatever. You know, that's just. But I never actually made an issue about it. Now, a nice one was in '87. The Tuesday, that's what I want to say. The Tuesday, I always went on my own. Only me. Because then I could really concentrate. Because on Monday, the prop wants to show he can also kick. And the lock wants to kick. And the wing, everybody wants to kick. Okay, so it was quite disruptive. Okay, and I didn't mind that, because everybody wants to kick back. But, if you stand there, I can kick it to you. Now they kick back and the ball is like 30 meters away from me. Now I must go fetch the ball. Then it's easier just to go and fetch the ball and run back. Okay. But then on Tuesdays I'll go on my own. And on the Tuesday afternoon in '87, before we played the final against the Transvaal, or the Lions at Ellis Park, there was one amazing thunderstorm at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the thunder quieted down. Okay. Now I'm sitting in the car and I think, do I really want to do this? I can just go home. Okay. Now I'm sitting there, and I thought, I think about 10, 15 minutes, I thought, no, okay, I'm here now. Just go and do it. Okay, just do it. Okay. So I get out, but it's wet there, and it's not like that. Okay. So now I go and I practice. Now it's difficult. Get over, then, at Loftus, then you get into that cement, and it's all slippery and whatever. Okay. But at the end, I stayed there for about an hour, maybe just over an hour, kicking whatever. The Wednesday, Thursday, Friday looked like this. Nice sunshine, whatever. Saturday morning, sunshine. Fine, everything's fine, whatever, okay. Afternoon started, we had hail, thunder, rain, wind, whatever. I promise you, I felt like a fish in water. And I think, seriously, I still ask the question today, but I'll never get the answer. What if? What if I didn't go on that Tuesday afternoon? What if? If I just went out?
So
would I have played like I played that Saturday? Because at the end, that's the game where I did 4 drops and 4 penalties.
Yeah.
Okay, but the what ifs. So I never ever actually sit down and think, what if? Because I just did it. You see the difference. So I'm not really a what if guy, because I actually normally did what I set out to do.
Okay, so I mean, as a father, we're sitting here with your daughter sitting here with us. What are the lessons that you took from that you then teach to your children?
Yeah, you see the difference is, talent, plenty. Okay, attitude, you can't teach anybody. You do have an attitude or not. At school level, fantastic little hockey player, But at the end, I'm a great believer as a parent. I need to support you as my child. That's it. Okay? There's a couple of games, and I've learned, okay? A couple of games, they'll get in the corner and say, what was this? Okay? What do you think you're doing? And whatever. And then I realized, but that's strong, okay? Because I, in a way, think of my standard, okay? And then I want to compare it to a 15-year-old. And I thought, no, but that's all wrong. It just doesn't make sense. Because you can't take 20 years of experience and stick it into a 16-year-old or 15-year-old little girl on a hockey field. So I've also learned quite a bit in and the work we're doing now is we do I want to say genetic brain profiling. That's what I'm full-time doing. Okay, and we've got a nice little structure where we can actually establish, what's your preference. Do you like this or don't you like this, or what are you good in, and where can you excel? So that's my business at the moment. Okay, and I actually applied that to their well-being on a sports field. Okay, the way if you've got a sensitive ear, okay, and my tone of voice is higher, then you don't listen to the content of my message. You listen to the emotion in my voice. So I don't ever get through to you. So now by just communicating differently, I'm getting through to you. Okay, there's some kids you can tell them what they want. There's some kids all they want to hear is you're the best. So tell him he's the best. Some kids you can walk up to and say, listen, I'm telling you now, if you don't wake up now, I'm pulling you, because they can communicate. They like that manner of communication. So that's absolutely fantastic field where we're into at the moment. Okay, but the message that I got at the end, and I still think we're having this discussion today, or this chat or whatever, because of the support I got from my parents. Nothing else. They just supported me. They made sure that, and when I was playing under 15, for argument's sake, I would play a rugby game at 8:15 on a Saturday morning for my school. Finish that game, then I would get with my dad in the car, drive through to Durban to practice baseball on the Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, driving back on Sunday afternoon. Now that is support. Not trying to teach you the game the whole time. Yes, there are certain things. Space is space in hockey. You've played hockey. Okay. I can't understand why a kid's passing to another kid. You pass in the space because you need to get to, you follow. And then I say, but can't you see the game? Can't you see this? But that's the way I look at it. Okay. And sometimes, and then I got a little bit quieter because I was absolutely too analytic. Everything that I looked at is, I analyze it, and I thought, I just need to stand here and watch them and enjoy it, And there's a couple of things that we've changed I want to say, in being supportive, and I think it worked. I think it really worked. I'm not the loudest supporter on the side of the field, but sometimes I don't think it's being loud that's actually the problem. It's by sometimes just guiding a little bit, but you need to be very careful for over guiding also. But that's we all learn as we go day by day. We just learn different things.
I see. So which of the two do you think has been more difficult, becoming a father and trying to figure that out, or playing for the Springboks?
I think it's everything in life is. I would say a jewel. It's not always a jewel, I know, But the thing what I'm trying to do is, I think I'm extremely a positive person. That helps, okay? I get up in the morning, I actually enjoy getting up. Some people get up in the morning, they're not enjoying it. Okay, it's not my fault, that's your own fault, okay? Life is not easy. Being a parent lately is definitely not easy. Think about this, okay? We got on our bicycles, go to school, go home, go to practice, go home, go to our friends, play around, whatever. So I believe we had a natural sort of fitness in ourselves. Seriously, okay? Now, I must take her to get fit. Think about this. Because either if you put her on a bicycle, it's danger. You let her walk, it's more danger. Now think about this. I need to take, and that's why I feel for the youngsters. I feel for them. Because I don't think there's a natural sort of fitness in their systems anymore. Because you take your kid by car from home to a gym. To what? To get fit. Then you take it to practice. Then you take it to another practice. Instead of getting on your bike and do this and do that. So I think, the whole dynamics of, I want to say, life changed totally. Totally. I feel for the youngsters today. I think they're at a disadvantage. The other thing is, we played. I can recall in winter holiday, we started playing rugby at 8 in the morning in the backyard till 5 in the afternoon. You don't see that anymore. I'm not saying you don't see it. I don't see it, okay? It might happen. It might still happen, But lately, kids play in the front yard and somebody jumps over the fence and grabs them or whatever. It sounds wrong, isn't it? Everything just sounds wrong. And I think the sooner we can actually sort out those issues, the better for the kids. Because what do we see? Somebody lying on a couch and watching YouTube. It's not their fault. See, we like to blame them and like to say to them, yes, but isn't there anything else you can do? What else can they do? Of course, the society, or however we live, doesn't really allow that, So it's a different, we're talking a different world at the moment. And that's why, don't always blame the kids. We tend to, but I don't think always. So what, you asked me the question, parent and whatever. I think both was difficult enough, but as a parent, your first job is just support. If there's a training, make sure she's on time and whatever. She comes home, make sure she eats better, getting opportunities. If there's trials, I know we don't always want to take the kids, whatever, just support wherever. Parents can't always be at every game. You know that. Okay, they can't always. But let them understand, in a way, you're there with them and whatever. And I think that's what a kid actually wants. A kid doesn't want you to be the coach. He wants you to be the parent, because there is a coach. And I think too many parents want to be coaches. And I think there's a big difference between that. So be the parent and leave it to the coach. Okay?
I see. I'd like to pivot the conversation a little bit. You mentioned when I arrived that you actually had the coronavirus a couple of weeks ago. You've been clean for a few weeks. Talk to me a little bit about that experience.
I worked Pumas Griquas on the Saturday, and I went home, and on the Sunday, I just felt awful. Okay, absolutely awful. And nauseous, and I was sleepy, and this, and I never even thought about it, because we actually, I don't want to say rule followers, but we're very careful on how we go about it, because we don't want to get sick and whatever. So we actually did quite a bit to stick to protocol, if I can put it that. But that whole week I got to a point where it was about 20 hours sleep a day. I thought, and I'm tired, and I'm not feeling well, and I'm cold and hot, and then this and that and whatever, and I had a headache. And on the Saturday morning, my wife just said, no, let's just go and check, okay. And then we both positive, tested positive, okay. But I actually just had all the systems, and then I just made sure that, we get a little bit isolated, making sure that, we stay away from the kids, and making sure that, but I didn't get to the point where I only stayed in one room. I just said, okay, if I move from there to there, just do that and stay away from us. Okay, that was end of October, 24th of October, I tested positive. And then I isolated myself for 10 days properly. My wife also did, and the kids, we kept them away and whatever, so nothing happened to them. The only thing that was quite nice, apart from feeling awful, okay, and of course I didn't know, your taste, okay, seriously, that and the smell, okay. But the taste was the most amazing thing, okay. At one stage I went and I bought this big Kit Kat. I'm a little sweet tooth, okay. Bought this Kit Kat and yes, it tastes awful. I thought, no, there's something wrong, okay, because you hear things but you don't know, because how do we know? I think half the whole world didn't know how it works, okay. Then the next day, there's two places that I got fudge from, that I can say, those are the best places. If you want fudge, you go to Garsfontein Law School, Snoopy. Yes, they've got the fudge, the lady bakes there. It's the best, okay. Best, okay. And then Mediclinic in Bloemfontein, okay. So those are my two spots.
Those are the two secret gems.
Yeah, that's
for
my
fudge.
two secret gems for fudge, okay. And then I went and I got my little girl and I said, okay, just buy me some fudge, okay, please, okay. Yes, and it's awful. Okay. And then I thought, no, okay, now seriously, now this taste thing is getting serious now. So the next day I went to Woolies and I bought this long black licorice, you know what I'm talking about, okay. And when I ate that and I felt, no, this tastes like rubber now, okay. Then I realized, okay, and at the end, with all this and that and whatever, I lost 7 kgs. That was quite nice, because I'm trying to lose weight, okay. So suddenly I lost 7 kgs in about let's say 15 days, and now I'm feeling fine. I'm seriously feeling fine.
Yes, I had an experience. I went to Stellenbosch a couple of weeks ago. I think it must have been, I think it was the beginning of October or so. I went to Stellenbosch with a friend of mine. I was telling you before we started recording. So we arrived in Stellenbosch, and that night we went out. We had a bit of a cair. We got back home. When I woke up the next morning, I felt awful. I felt like I was definitely going to die. It was bad. And my friend, he joked with me that I just had a hangover, and I said, no, I didn't drink last night. I wasn't drinking. I had like 4 Coke Zeros, and that was it. And it just lasted. It lasted through the whole week, to the point where it was, I just felt absolutely terrible. I didn't want to eat. I mean, I probably ate like 500 calories or less every day for that whole week, or fewer. And it was the worst. And when I came home, I remember for a few months I'd been, exercising every day. I weighed about 83. Exercising every day. I said, when I was in high school, when I was playing hockey every day, I weighed 80. I want to weigh 80 again. So exercise. I went on that trip, didn't exercise once for the whole week, came back, I weighed 78. Just like that, achieved my goal. So if you're struggling with weight loss, ladies and gentlemen, just get sick for an extended period of time, and you'll lose all that weight. No problem. You'll go.
With that, you need to say, at least survive.
Yeah, survive. It's a roll of the dice.
That's the most, just survive.
I had a friend who got the coronavirus also, a couple months ago, and he told me that the craziest thing for him as well was the smell. Because all the other symptoms people have had before, you've had headaches before, you've had fever before, you felt like that before. But smell, losing your sense of smell completely, something that people are not used to. So this guy said it was the craziest thing. He took a bottle of Axe body spray and he sprayed it straight into his face, and he couldn't smell anything. It's as if it wasn't even there. He said it was one of the most surreal experiences of his life, completely losing a sense. I think I haven't had it yet.
I had that for about 2 weeks, and then on the Wednesday afternoon, on my 10th day, okay? But I think I was sick actually before I tested, okay? So I think I had it a little bit longer, okay? But doesn't matter. But on that Wednesday, I walked downstairs and I smelled, we normally have curry and rice on a Wednesday, okay, chicken curry. And I smelled it. And I said, what smells so nice? And everybody said, oh, okay. And then we're like, okay, it sounds like I'm through, okay? Then I still feel quite tired. still feels like somebody hit me with a hammer on the ribs. I'm a little bit sore because we had also a super sport shootout about a week ago. And I think not playing golf that regularly lately, I think I might have maybe stretched one or two muscles. So I'm a little bit still sore and tired because it doesn't matter whatever you put out. I can't go to bed before 12 o'clock at night. I just keep myself busy till about 12 o'clock. And I suddenly, 9 o'clock, I'm tired. And I sleep. But the unfortunate thing is then I wake up just after 5. That's why I think I've always had the attitude, if I go to bed at about 12 sleeping, I'm talking sleeping, and I wake up about 5:30, 6 in the morning, then I had enough sleep. I'm not one of those guys. I actually maneuver, and I'm a master of a 20-minute napper. Yes, I can work in a quick napper. But now suddenly I'm 9 o'clock at night, I sleep, and I can feel that. So I feel that I'm not 100%, but I'm definitely better. But it was just weird to experience it because you hear a lot of people talking about it and on the news and whatever, and then suddenly, and I still don't know where we got it because we were very cautious. But we did pick it up somewhere, so I must have touched something. I don't know. I've got no idea.
So, I mean, when you started hearing the news and you know, especially the part that it affects people over 60, it affects so much more heavily than young people. And I know that obviously a lot of your friends must be people that, you know, are in your sort of age range. Were you worried when you first started hearing about it?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Because I've experienced with my brother that we lost about 2 years ago. He lost 2 of his kids through cancer and whatever. I'm just a great believer that, and I know we don't want to go into religion because this is not about a field that we need to go into, but I just believe there's a time to come and a time to go. And if it was my time to go through COVID, then it's my time. That's just the way I believe. I'm a strong believer in that. So if it's normal, it's normal. If it's time to go, you go. Now, if it was mine, then if it's COVID or something else, then I'm going. So that's my belief, and people differ with me, but that's fine. That's just the way I look at life, and I don't think I'm ever going to change that attitude.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously you've now spent some time working over the past few months in the rugby industry during COVID. And this was, it's like we mentioned earlier, the industry was already seeing a little bit of a wane in terms of spectator, count. And the pandemic has hit the industry very hard. Yeah. I mean, harder than most industries, in the sense that everything stopped overnight. It wasn't like, and there was very little you could do to fix it. Do you think that the rugby industry handled it well, or do you think that there's things they should have done differently in the face of the pandemic?
It's such an unknown quantity. We don't know. You can't really give a response on that would make sense because it was totally out of everybody's hands. Government decided that that's the way we're going to operate. That's the way we're going to do it. And you just stick to, I want to say, to rules and regulations. So it's an extremely difficult one. But there's a couple of things that I keep asking myself. Okay, you get, and now it's a remark because I'm not a medical expert. If somebody of a medical expert sits here, he might give you totally a different answer to the question. What I don't understand is people go to clubs, people do this, people do that. But you take a stadium of 50,000 people. How can we not fit in 15,000 people? And they're all safe, according to me, because they sit in different rows, 5 seats away from each other, whatever. But see, I don't know enough. I'm just asking the question, like you asking the question. I just ask, but why is it not possible? You take Loftus. Why can't we fit in 15,000 people in here? Or is the onus straight on the person to behave according to this and this and this and this, and if you do behave, then you're not going to get it? Ask me. I'm serious. I'm one of the, not the only guy, I'm one of the people that I stick to. If the curfew says 10 o'clock, then I make sure my kids are in home before 10. That's it. I don't go outside the law. I just don't. It's just the way my mentality works, okay? But what I don't understand is, how can we not fit in 15,000, 20,000 people into a 50,000 stadium without harming anything? Or is there really opportunity because of this and this and this? And nobody's been telling us things. That's the problem. Nobody sits there and say, okay, let's talk about this scenario. Let's explain to you this scenario, okay? If we take Loftus and you put in 20,000 people, then this and this and this and this and this can happen. I don't know if you've heard something, because I haven't heard anything. Now that's what I would like, especially about something we don't know, to explain to everybody. This is how it works. You put 120 people into a club. If you stay at arm's length and this and this and this and this and this, and you put your mask on, whatever, then this can happen or this won't happen. What we read in the paper, and unfortunately because of fake news, then you hear mask is not good, then you hear you can't be without it. Then you and me sit in a restaurant, we take it off. We go outside and they arrest us because we don't have it on. But nobody comes and just explain to us, listen, this is how it works. This is how it falls into place. If you do it this way, then we can do that. But to be fair to everybody, I don't think anybody knows. So is it worth the risk to go out and do all these different things? And then, I don't know. We just chatting. And I'm trying to figure it all out. And say, or please come and explain to us, why can't we do it this way or this way? Or maybe, to be fair to everybody, nobody knows. But there's Australia. There's games that have been played, whatever, and it looks fine.
New Zealand's eradicated.
Yeah, but it looks fine, But there's the whole of Europe. They don't allow supporters at soccer games. So what don't we know that nobody's telling us? I'm a little bit of a news junkie. Okay, I love my news. I like to know what's going on in the world, whatever. But I don't think we're getting enough news. Or is it only because people don't really know? Even the experts, they don't really know. Not blaming them. I'm just saying, maybe they don't know. Or maybe they don't know. They know and they don't want to tell us. I would seriously think, we should be guided on a weekly basis through experts telling us this. But now you get an expert saying something, and then you get somebody from the outside or from the department that suddenly get fired, whatever. Why? Why can't people just give information? But proper information, not fake news. And I know 99% of social media is fake news, isn't it? I don't know.
It's a big percentage.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I think that you're entirely right, and I think that a lot of the experts are being muffled to a certain extent. Because I feel like if an expert who really understands the virus, who understands exactly how it works, were to go on TV and say, this is exactly how it works, this is the perfect way to do it, I feel like then people would assume that that is exactly how we are going to do it. And that doesn't always match up with the agendas of the government. And I'm not saying agendas in a negative sense, but for example, an expert might come out and say, okay, the virus can travel this far in a stadium environment. Okay, so we've got a stadium, 15,000 people. People are sitting, let's say, 3 meters in any direction.
Yeah.
There's no one there. The virus can travel this far. This is how we should handle it. Everyone should be wearing exactly this. Everyone should be behaving in this
manner.
way.
And
I think then it puts a little bit of pressure on the government. Because first off, if the information isn't new, then that means that the government has been ignoring it. Okay, which puts them under scrutiny. And secondly, if an expert were to come on and make a call which drastically affects the economy, that's a big problem as well. Because if the expert comes on and says, you know what, hotspots right now, restaurants. We really restaurants should not be open at all. We need to close restaurants, which makes sense. I mean, restaurants are an enclosed environment. People are sitting around tables with no masks. If an expert comes on and says restaurants should be closed, then the government, they damned if they do and they damned if they don't.
Yeah.
Because either they close restaurants and people protest again, or they don't and people say, why are you ignoring the scientists? So I think that the problem is we expect everyone to agree. We expect that once the information is 100% accurate, everyone will agree that that's the right way to do things. But they won't, because people are affected in different ways. I'm not a restaurant owner. I cook most of my own food at home. I love cooking. If restaurants closed, I'm not going to be that affected at all. But if I'm a restaurant owner, if I'm someone whose family relies on restaurants, if I'm someone whose restaurant is open month to month, then it's the worst thing that could possibly happen is to close restaurants again. So you make a single sweeping statement and say, listen, in terms of the virus, this is what we really should be doing. I mean, now you've gone in and really doomed a lot of people and pushed a lot of people into poverty. So that's why I think we haven't had such clear information from the experts, because if the information...
just on that point, do they really know? Do they have all the answers?
I think, to be honest, I think it's been long enough that they have enough of
Figured
the
out
answers.
a couple of things. Absolutely. Absolutely.
If the information from the experts remains somewhat unclear, then the reasoning behind the government's decisions can also be somewhat unclear. And I think that they need that right now, because they need to keep restaurants open. But they also need to have people wear masks in the streets, which doesn't make sense. I mean, we're sitting here, that doesn't make sense to us. It probably doesn't make sense to them either. But it's the best economic decision.
Yeah.
I think any expert would say that's stupid, that doesn't make any sense. But it probably benefits as many people as possible economically. I mean, in South Africa, we've already got an unemployment issue, which is a massive issue across the country. It's been an issue for forever. I think that any move the government makes, even if it is for the well-being of public health, any decision they make that pushes that poverty percentage higher is going to be heavily criticized.
No.
So
that's why we don't have all the answers. We just seriously, we're just chatting. You know, every guy's got his own opinion. Not always the right one, but you know, I believe we're allowed to maybe debate a little bit, ask a question or two.
But we should debate. I think that's an important part of it, because if we just accepted everything that's told to us, you know, nothing is really ever going to change. We are disempowering ourselves to put our expertise on the table. How, as small as that expertise might be, and neither of us are medical experts, but we can take logic that we've learned over the course of our lives and apply it to this and say, this does not make sense. Why is it the way that it is? And I suppose that if the government has to come out and say, you know, we know that this doesn't make sense, that discredits them. So they'll never come out and say that.
I know you're absolutely correct by saying that, but I don't look at trying to discredit them. I'm trying to say, I think my whole attitude is, what can we do to get as closely to normal? That's all. What can we do? Because we need to get back to normal. We're never going to be normal, you know, and I know that. We've accepted that, okay? Life's never going to be the same, okay? But, you know, if you think life wasn't that great, okay, so it doesn't really matter. So, I mean, it's never going to be the same. But there are certain decisions that can actually make sure, you know, you take traveling. Traveling is an important part in, I believe, any well-being of any country, okay? Tourism, whatever. Now, somewhere along the line, after so many months, there need to be a clear picture what's good and what's bad. There need to be a clear picture, okay? You can't come to South Africa because I need to travel, but I can't go to another country and stay 14 days in quarantine. But firstly, why would I do that? I'd rather just stay here. But I need to travel because certain things that we need to do, you know, you can do so much over Zoom and whatever, but, you know, a chat like this, You can't compare this to a Zoom chat. I don't care what people say. Okay. But now, unfortunately, we don't have all the, I don't think they have all the answers, or they might, as you mentioned, and we don't know. But we need to start moving, because in my mind, I'm saying to myself, the virus is not just going to disappear tomorrow, is it? No, it's never going to disappear. So are we going to, for the rest of our lives, live like this? That doesn't make sense. So somewhere along the line, we need to get a little bit of guidance, better guidance than what we got at the moment.
I was talking to Professor Tawana Kupe, who's the VC of the University of Pretoria. I was chatting to him about the university's response to the coronavirus and if he thinks they handled it well, because the university is being heavily criticized. Because students have to write. Some students have to write exams on campus, which puts their. It's actually so ridiculous, and it's a perfect example of what we were chatting about. They make an announcement that says, "Okay, everyone is going to stay home. We are going to move schooling online." Students, this is bullshit. Like, that's correct. How can, that's the dumbest thing they've ever heard. Students are upset. Then they say, "Okay, you know what? We will move exams onto campus. Some of you can come write exams." Students, that is bullshit. What kind of crazy, that's the stupidest thing they've ever heard. Students are upset. There's petitions going both ways and the same people are signing both petitions.
Absolutely.
It's insane. So the thing that Prof. Kupe said to me, which I thought was really something to remember, is he said the university did not invent the coronavirus to oppress students. This is not something that they are also victims of the virus. They are, we're on the same team, and I think that that's something people need to remember. I mean, you're always about 3 clicks away on Facebook from seeing someone having a rant about the government with regards to the coronavirus response and with regards to anything, really. But I think specifically with this pandemic, we need to remember that we're all on the same team. The government did not, unless you're a conspiracy theorist, the government didn't invent the virus to oppress us. The government's trying to handle it as best they can.
As best they can,
So it's a difficult situation. And I think that in sport as well, it's even more difficult, because now we're being forced to ask questions about sacrifices. How much of our safety are we willing to sacrifice for, let's say, human contact in a restaurant? How much of our safety will we sacrifice to be able to sit across from another at a table? Then you ask, okay, how much of our safety are we willing to sacrifice to sit at a rugby game? And those two things can't be the same. You need to draw the line somewhere. So I think that especially industries that are, quote unquote, luxuries, as opposed to things that are, required to live, I think have just sort of been cast aside. And it's a problem. I wonder if a lot of the people that you work with have been going through a very, very tough time over the past 8 months or so.
Totally possible. Totally possible. But you see, the thing is, there's a couple of things I'm trying to get my mind around, okay? Professional rugby can go ahead, but not club rugby.
I think...
Not school rugby. I'm just asking myself questions. How can this happen? But is a professional player not going to get the virus, but a club player is going to get the virus?
I think it's a question of money. And from a purely economic standpoint, if a professional rugby player is worth a lot more to the country's GDP than a school rugby player.
No, I totally understand, but we're talking about a virus. We're not talking about the economy. We're not talking business. We're just talking straight virus. That's why I would like to see us getting a little bit more guidance and a clear picture on, like I said, this is not going to disappear tomorrow. We all know that. But how are we going to live with it going forward? Because what happened in the last number of months was, I gather, very well thought out to protect the people. But are we going to live in that same environment for the next Okay, you for 60 years, me for 18 years. Then we're all to 80 years old. You follow what I'm getting? And it doesn't make sense. And I know a lot of people out here are asking questions. We just trying to, I think every person love to just somewhere figure out something so it makes a little bit more sense than yesterday. And no, that's why we keep asking. We're working now at stadiums, okay? And the protocol is so strict. But I understand why it's there. But if we can work inside the stadium, it's like you said earlier, if you work out a strategy for supporters to come in, I think somewhere along the line, the next step, that's what we need to start doing. We need to take the next step and think a little bit outside the box. But those are the experts that need to do that. I'm definitely not clever enough to do that.
Okay. I understand. I agree with you. So, Naas, we're coming up on the last 5 or 6 minutes. A lot of the people, I think, who listen to this particular episode of the podcast will not be my regular listeners. There'll be people who, your fans, who want to hear about your opinions and things you have to say about being a sports person. And I think that you're a big hero for a lot of people who are trying to make something of themselves in the sport world. So, I mean, you've obviously become this rugby icon. You've played baseball. You've played American football. You've played in, I think South Africa, Italy. You've played all across the world. So, just in the last 5 minutes, to someone who's listening who is trying to make something of themselves as a sports person and who's trying to become what you are, what is your advice?
I think we mentioned a little bit earlier, the effort you put in, that's what you'll get out. Okay, but I know it sounds easy because, that means you've got no talent. So if I put the effort in, I'm going to go places. It doesn't work like that, okay? What people need to seriously consider, especially life now, because life when I grew up till today is totally different. Okay, we had not too many opportunities because of apartheid, and we all understand that and whatever. And I said to people, people always think we always had advantages to other people. Now, in my career, I've seen fantastic players, never played for South Africa. Doesn't matter what color, never played for South Africa. All wrong. In my time frame, should have played over 100 internationals. I only played 28. So we're all at a disadvantage. Some of our athletes should have been at the Olympics. They never got an opportunity to go to the Olympics or play in Grand Slams or whatever. It doesn't matter, okay? Where we today is there are so many opportunities. But what do I see more and more is that the effort is not there, okay? But the results they want, okay? And I'm a great believer. You put in, you get out. So a lot of kids also think, who cares about today? Next week. There might never be a next week. That's the difference. There might never be a next. Or you think, okay, this year I'll take a little bit of a break because next year. You get an injury, that's the end of your career. You know all this. This is common sense, okay? What do you need to do is firstly, you need to decide what makes you happy, okay? If that means you train 3 times more than anybody else, do it, okay? Quite true, you can't care 3 times more than the normal guy because that doesn't go along with the whole environment of sport, okay? There's so many different things that we can put on the table to say but there's no golden rule. That's the thing. That's what's nice about it, because not everybody is going to make it, but everybody needs to take the opportunities. I upset so many people when I went to America with American football, because in those days I was expelled out of rugby because it was a professional sport to an amateur sport. And people were annoyed and they were hurtful for me for many years after that, whatever. Because who gave me the right to make up my mind to do something that you don't like? Does it make sense what I'm telling you? I'm doing what I like, but it upsets you because I don't do what you like. And that's my advice. Okay, my advice is for parents to support. Give their kids all the opportunities, if possible. Okay, if possible. If not, see if you can create opportunities. This whole thing of schools buying, that's nonsense, man. It's nonsense. They just sometimes give good kids a great opportunity to be different, to be better. That's all. That's the attitude. We need to just change a little bit of our attitude. And instead of being critical the whole time, let's be more supportive. You know, I look at the thing. I had an attitude last week. You know, I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to be critical about anything anymore. I'm not going to. I'm going to be, if you say to me, what do you think about this guy? Seriously, and he's a good guy, I'm going to tell you straight, he's a great guy. If he's not a good guy, I'm going to say, okay, I've got no opinion. That's it. That's the end of it. I'm not. I think we get too involved in getting too involved in somebody else's life instead of just be supportive. You know, like the World Cup rugby. How nice was that final? I had a fantastic day in '95. I still believe that's my greatest sport day, winning the World Cup in '95 in South Africa. Okay. Then I had a fantastic one in '96 when we won the African Cup of Nations. I'm not a soccer fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. I support them for years and whatever. It doesn't matter. But I'm not knowledgeable about soccer. But I loved that day. 2007, Jake White and the guys winning the World Cup. And then last year was absolutely exceptional. Wade van Niekerk running a world record at Rio Olympics. That's things that we need to enjoy. But the thing is, you know, maybe let's just all change our attitude and just see the better in somebody else instead of seeing the worst. Seriously now. You know, I've listened to how many people, and you know, I'm so glad, because this is not my kind of thing, okay? Podcast and whatever, okay? I'm stupid, okay? That's the end of it. Me and a computer, we don't like each other, okay? But what I don't understand, and maybe you can actually finish our conversation today and giving me a little bit of advice. You put out a statement, okay, on social media, okay? And that's why I'm not on social media, okay? You say, I like the Bulls. Now, there might be 100 remarks because you said you like the Bulls. 40 is telling you how bad a person you are. Calling you names and whatever. Sorry, I don't understand that.
Yeah,
I would say social media is, you make a statement, you like the Bulls. And I should come out and say, that's interesting. I like the Stormers more. Or I like the Cheetahs more. Or I like the Sharks more. Not getting into your personality and tell you how bad you are and calling you names. I can't sometimes I think, but why do you even take 10 seconds of your life to write that to somebody else? I don't understand that. Seriously, I don't. And that's why I absolutely detest social media. Okay? There are so many good things through social media. You open a new restaurant. Boys, I've opened a new restaurant. Just come and support me. After remarks is, what do you know about restaurant? What? Instead of saying, great, well done, okay, we're coming, or whatever. And I think maybe this COVID whole thing, I don't know, maybe it changed my attitude, but I just decided, listen, I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody anymore. And it's annoying if somebody says something and half the world is telling you how bad a person he is. They don't even know the guy. Like Dustin Johnson on the weekend. He won the Masters, okay? I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Now, half the comments is, yeah, but it's not a real Masters, it's in November. Excuse me. He didn't make the call to have the Masters in November. All that he did is he played what's in front of him. Now everybody is criticizing him. Why do we criticize him in any case? Why do they have to give bad remarks of what happened 20 years ago in his life? Please, even if you can from now on just try and change people's attitude, just do that. Do me one favor, okay? Because I hate that. I hate people getting into somebody's personality because he made a remark. Give me your opinion. Don't give me your opinion about me. And maybe this message can go out to somebody, and maybe if we change one, see, people always think we need to change a million attitudes. No, we change one person's attitude today and say, from now on, I'm also a positive guy. Then we've done our job, isn't it?
I agree with you. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it.
You're more than welcome.
And we are out of time, but I've had an amazing time. So thank you so much for chatting to me.
You're welcome.
And thank you everybody for listening.